But give me raise your hands. Have you heard of the Edenton Tea Party? Do you even know where Edenton is? So many people in the United States did not even know that the Edenton Tea Party existed or happened until 1827. So a naval officer came back to the United States and he had purchased this print. And if you look at our table, we can put it back up after, you'll see it's a mesoprint of a political cartoon that was not very flattering to the ladies of Edenton. And he purchased this print and brought it back. And then people did some research, and lo and behold, what? There was this group of 51 ladies who did this thing back in 1774 that created quite a stir over in England. The mesoprint that was done, it was called A Society of Patriotic Ladies at Edenton in North Carolina. So now you know where Edenton is. You can actually go down there. There is a museum. They celebrated their 250th of their tea party. This print was published in 1775. It was slower than snail mail for things to get over there, right? So it was a satirical cartoon that showed the civil disobedience of these 51 ladies, and it was not in a flattering light. These women were made to look like they were bad mothers, that they were loose women, they were frivolous, they didn't care for their homes, and they were out of control. So it wasn't, the men who made this were not being very flattering to these women. And it was a tea party done by a group of ladies when that sex was supposed to be basically seen and not heard, right? So if you go down to Edenton today, you can actually find this print in their museum at the Barker House, and it is there. There's a large print of it, but you can see the original mezzotint at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is pretty amazing. It was actually a set of 5 prints that came out, and theirs was one of them. So why was there such a humiliating response? As I told you, women politically were supposed to be seen and not heard. Abigail Adams did not follow that, and neither did Mrs. Barker. So I want to just give you a very quick history tour, okay? French and Indian War left England in desperate need for funds. In 1667 and 68, the Townshend Acts were passed by Congress, and they added tax to glass and lead and paint and paper and tea, and those were all things that got imported to us. And the tax was supposed to pay for them to protect us. And it did several things. The first thing that it did is it eliminated the lucrative business of smuggling. Anybody know the biggest name on the Declaration of Independence? John Hancock. He was alleged to be a smuggler. That's how he made his money. So the protests began. Okay, in 1773, the British East India Company was on the verge of insolvency, and they needed to do something. So Parliament is like, oh, we're going to give you a hand. And so they passed this Tea Act, and it said, you know what, we're going to remove the middleman for you. We're going to lower the prices of tea, and everybody will be happy, right? No, not at all, because the colonies still had no representation in Parliament. They were being told what to do without a voice. So here's where these 51 great ladies come in. All right, so they were called, also known as the Edenton Ladies Patriotic Guild. And not only were these ladies consumers and purchasers of the goods that were being boycotted, they were managers of their homes. They were supporters of their spouses. And now they were going to have to pay a 3-pence tax for every pound of tea that they purchased. Now, these women were very courageous. They joined together, they signed a document. There's a lot of hearsay. Was it actually that they all gathered? Did they do it? Did they just all go sign? Did they not? If you go look at the table, you'll see a list of them. You'll also see a beautiful print out that you can sign your own protest. But they were signing this document protesting not merely the taxation on the goods they were purchasing, but they were protesting that they were being taxed and they were not being represented. And they were supporting their men, the men that they were married to, the men that they were sending to Continental Congress. These men were meeting at the same time. They felt that it was their moral right and duty to do this, and that was a concrete way that they could show their dissatisfaction with the injustice that was going on. So, August of 74, the North Carolina delegates are meeting for 3 days in New Bern for the first political provincial Congress, and they were supporting boycotts on all of the things I was telling you about. And then on October 25th, here goes my notes, on October 25th, the Edenton ladies, led by the very brave Penelope Barker, who had been married multiple times because her poor husbands just did not live long. So she was on, I think, number 3 at this time. She had been basically a stay-at-home, run everything, because her husband currently was over in England and would be for 17 to 18 years. So she was running things, okay? And she drafted this document. She called it the Edenton Resolves, and she wanted to show solidarity with the actions that the Provincial Congress of North Carolina was agreeing to. So you have to realize this Provincial Congress is the beginnings of the independent government of North Carolina. So her husband had been in England at this point since 1761. He was actually a colony agent to Parliament. And when he found out about what happened, he had to flee. And he had to get out of Dodge, so to speak, because he was in Great Britain at the time when this all started going down. And he was not able to return home to North Carolina until 1778. So Penelope was doing this on her own. She'd always been on her own, running their lives. She was always watching what was going on between England and the colonies, and she had a lot to lose because she was very well known. They were a well-off family, but she was a staunch supporter for her husband. So what was the big deal? Tea was the big deal, because every home, as you saw today in our wonderful tea party, every home had a tea service. The fancier your tea service, that's big points for you, okay? Everyone drank tea. The more tea, the stronger your tea, the better off you were. You were making a statement. You were making a social status statement. So the fact that these women were boycotting noticeably the tea. It's one thing for the guys to say it, right? And it's another thing for the women who are going and buying the goods to do it, right? So they made a conscious choice to follow the leads of their husbands, and they also made a conscious decision to follow their fellow women. Okay, 51 names. They broke out their patriotic tea, like we are drinking today, and they wrote this resolution. So I'm going to read it quickly to you. I'm not going to read all the names. You can go see all the names over there. But it says here, and this is not the full text, this is just an extract that was sent and published in a newspaper in England. And it says, the provincial deputies of North Carolina, having resolved not to drink any more tea, nor wear any more British cloth, etc., many ladies of this province have determined to give memorable proof of their patriotism, and have accordingly entered into the following honorable and spirited association. I send it to you to show your fair countrywomen how zealously and faithfully American ladies follow the laudable example of their husbands, and what opposition your matchless ministers may expect to receive from a people thus firmly united against them. This is pretty powerful stuff, okay? As we cannot be indifferent on any occasion that appears nearly to affect the peace and happiness of our country, and as it has been thought necessary for public good to enter into several particular resolves by a meeting of members deputed from the whole province, it is a duty which we owe not only to our near and dear connections who have concurred in them, but to ourselves, who are essentially interested in their welfare, to do everything as far as lies in our power to testify our sincere adherence to the same, and we do therefore accordingly subscribe this paper as a witness of our fixed intention and solemn determination to do so. Every woman signed their name to it. Okay? By November 3rd, of 74, an excerpt was published here in the colonies as a part of a postscript in the Weekly Virginia Gazette. It got across the pond by January 16th and was published in the Morning Chronicle and the London Advertiser, and it was accompanied by that lovely satirical print that you can see over there. And letters started arriving from family members in England. Remember, a lot of these people had family. All right, they were all British citizens, okay? And they elicited some really interesting responses. So this is where I'm bringing, this is my husband's hat. He let me borrow it today. So I am going to share a letter with you that was written. One of the gals, I don't even know how to say it. So anyway, I do the book. One of the young ladies in this that signed the petition was noted by a family member over in England, and it was written back to the family in North Carolina. And so this is the full letter. If the lady who signed it was named Hannah Johnson, Iroquois. And this is the sister-in-law of James Iredell. So it is a letter from Arthur Iredell to James Iredell, the Comptroller of Customs for Port Roanoke, Edenton, North Carolina. London, Queen Square, January 31st, 1775. Dear brother, not having as yet heard that the American Congress had prohibited the correspondence of an Englishman, I am now sat down to exhort you a long letter. Pray, are you become patriotic? I see by the newspapers the Edenton ladies have signalized themselves by their protests against tea drinking. The name of Johnston I see among others. Are there any of my sister's relations patriotic heroines? Is there a female Congress at Edenton too? I hope not, for we Englishmen are afraid of the male Congress. But if the ladies, who have ever since the Amazonian era been esteemed the most formidable enemies, if they say, I say, should attack, is the most fatal consequence, and it is to be dreaded. So dexterous in the handling of a dart, each wound they give is mortal. So whilst we so unhappily formed by nature, the more we strive to conquer them, the more are conquered. Edenton ladies, conscious, I suppose, of this superiority on their side by former experience, are willing, I imagine, to crush us into atoms by their omnipotency. The only security on our side to prevent from the impending ruin that I can perceive is the probability that there are but few places in America which possess such female artillery as Edmonton. I don't know about you, but I find that, okay, gonna put me back to this. So what was the impact? I'm gonna close now, but what was the impact of this? Okay, well you can see that this letter was, tongue-in-cheek, but not tongue-in-cheek. Basically, get control of your women. Okay? All right. The British mobbed the colonies were inspired. The names of every woman on there, they were engaging in civil disobedience, right? That's treason against the British Crown. Punishable by death. Every single one of them. And let's think about it. I want to talk Boston Tea Party for just 30 seconds. The guys, sorry guys who are here, but the guys who did the Boston Tea Party, what were they, how were they dressed? All right, they were in disguise. This is a group of women that said, I don't care. Okay, they one-upped the men at the Boston Tea Party and in turn inspired their fellow women patriots. These women were so brave, they were not afraid to stand, even if it meant their death. What is it? Their lives, their fortune, their sacred honor. All right, what happened to Penelope Barker's husband? He had to leave England, okay? And that is why we are gathered here to celebrate these brave women as we remember the ladies. And I would like to hand this over now to Pam O'Connor, who will be sharing about some wonderful patriot women. Thank you.